Good day, grade 11 students. This is Miss Mayani. Love and share Christ. Are you ready to learn something new today? If yes, sit properly and listen attentively. Let's begin our lesson for today and our last lesson for this quarter by watching this video.
Since not all of us can travel the whole world, Fact Point has brought the entire world to you. In this very interesting video we will tell you about different cultures from different societies which you may find even shocking. So let's get started. Number 1. Croatia. Croatia is popular for its national parks, beaches, and of all the things, the coastal country is also famous for its Game of Thrones appeal. But, if you are traveling in this Eastern European country, depending on where you are from, it might shock you when you learn that if you plan to stay there, it is expected from you to clean not only your own house but also the street outside of your house. There is a reason why the country is famous for its clean streets and communal civil pride. Croatia is not exception. Countries like Spain too have similar culture. Number 2. I don't want coffee. Wait. Now I want. In Ireland, it is considered rude to accept any food item from the host the first time it is being offered by them. Even if you are being offered a mouth-watering treat, pretend to decline the offer. You will be asked once again, and this time, it's absolutely okay to accept it. It might sound a weird practice, especially if you are from country like US, where a no would mean a no, and agreeing the other time might make you come off as a weird fluctuating person. Number 3. The country with no traffic rules. Food is not the only thing Lebanon is famous for. Talk to any traveler who have been to the Lebanese Republic, they would tell you that there is virtually no traffic rules at all, in the Middle Eastern country. Even if there seem to be traffic rules, everyone is speeding around you and the rules are not enforced at all. Needless to say, there are countless accidents every day on the roads of Lebanon. Number 4. Bishkesh. In Jordan, Iran and many Arab countries, if someone compliments about something you are wearing, it is considered rude at your part to not offer the same thing immediately to the person who originally complimented you. In Iran, this tradition has got its name and is called Bishkesh. One traveler shared an incident that occurred in one of the Jordan hotels where, unaware of this tradition, he complimented waiter's watch and the waiter immediately unlatched the watch and tried to push it on the traveler's hand. If you want to accept the gift, don't say yes before you have said no at least thrice. That's another aspect of this norm. Good luck. Number 5. Being friendly towards strangers. If you are from the United States, nothing special in here for you, move on. But, if you are not aware of the US culture, prepare yourself for a cultural shock when you land in the America and suddenly people you don't even know are smiling at you. They might even ask you how's your day going and not even bother to listen your reply. And, similarly, if you are an American traveling in Europe and trying to be friendly with random strangers on the streets, prepare yourself for receiving weird looks. It's fascinating how opposite two cultures can be. Number 6. Rush hours in China and Japan. Talking about opposites, it would be quite interesting to discuss how the crowd treats you in China versus how it treats you in Japan. You will find countless travelers telling you how in China, during the busy hours, everyone is pushing, cutting the line, breaking the queue and seem in hurry. They might not care even if you are a traveler. The reason is fairly obvious. China has a huge population and if you are planning to stand there and wait for your turn, you will never get an opportunity. Now when it comes to Japan, you would find yourself at the totally opposite end of the spectrum. Number 7. India. If the word diversity could be represented as a country, India would be the answer. The South Asian country has diversity in every form. The country itself is a concoction of different cultures. While there is a lot to talk about India, one cultural difference which might catch your eyes and might even shock you, especially if you are not Asian, is the sight of grown-up men walking around holding their hands. which might illusion you into thinking they are homosexuals, but in reality it is a fairly common way to express your friendliness in India, and the men are just being brothers. Number 8. Tolerance towards public drunkenness. If you are a Brit, or familiar with streets of Britain, you probably know that public drinking is taken casually and considered normal there. But the attitude towards public drunkenness when compared to Europe is totally different in the States. So much so that asking for beer in a restaurant might invite stares and a lecture on, "Sir, this is a family restaurant." Let us know in the comments what do you feel about either of the cases. Number 9. Nap time in Spain. When you visit Spain as a tourist, roaming in the Spanish street in the afternoon would make you realize that you are probably alone and nobody is around with all the shops closed. This time after the midday meal till 4 p.m. is also called siesta time in Spain, and in these early hours of afternoon you would probably find no one in streets or in the shops except for probably you yourself. Number 10. Balinese funerals. If you are new to Bali, funeral processions might look like a party or wedding to you. Funeral procession in the Indonesian island are full of food, music and songs. They are very expensive too. Often the body is buried inside a container till arrangements for funeral can be done, or the auspicious day arrives. Balinese funerals are very expensive and the body may be interred until the family can afford it or until there is a group funeral planned by the village or family when costs will be less. Additionally, if the departed was a court servant, member of the court or minor noble, the cremation can be postponed up to several years to coincide with the cremation of their prince. Cultures can vary greatly. Did we miss your country? Why don't you share with us in comment section below? If you found this video interesting, don't forget to like, and to stay updated, hit the subscribe button. Have a fine day ahead.
It was clearly presented in the video that different countries have different cultures. And these cultures are beautiful and unique on its own little way. People say that the beauty of the world lies in the diversity of its people. Indeed, our differences are what make us beautiful and unique, and also remarkable. But these differences can also hinder communication. That's why today, we will be talking about intercultural communication. From the word itself, intercultural, it deals with different cultures of different countries. It is how communication works within different cultures. But why is it important to have understanding among different cultures? What are its benefits? Culture understanding helps us in understanding people's behavior. Of course, when we understand their culture, we also understand how people react, how people live their life. And also, it is to prevent misunderstanding. And if there is no misunderstanding, it is easy for us to respect the differences between different cultures. And of course, lastly, it is to communicate the right message to the right people. Libaron in 2003 stated that communication is the vehicle by which meanings are conveyed, identity is composed and reinforced, and also feelings are expressed. Which simply means that by communicating and conversing with other people, we can easily transmit and convey different messages. We can also be known, and of course, we can express who we are and how we feel. As we communicate using different cultural habits and meaning systems, both conflict and harmony are possible outcomes of any interaction. Of course, if two different people from different cultures and different countries communicate or converse with each other, it is not really possible to communicate with entire harmony or peace. Of course, there will be conflicts and misunderstandings that will arise. This is why we are going to study intercultural communication for us to be able to know how to overcome this barrier. But what is intercultural communication? Myrick in 2008 said that interpersonal interaction between members of different groups which differ from each other in respect of knowledge shared by their members and in respect of their linguistic forms of symbolic behavior refers to intercultural communication. From the word itself, intercultural, it means that across different cultures, people communicate. People from different cultures and different countries have different lifestyle, have different beliefs. Thus, they also communicate in different ways. That's why today, we will try to understand the different meanings conveyed by different people from different culture. It was said that there are two types of cultures. First is the high context and second one is the low context culture. Communication varies according to its degree of field dependence and that it can be classified into two general categories, which means high context and low context. It was said by Libaron in 2003. However, Hall said that high context and low context communication refers to the degree to which speakers rely on factors other than explicit speech to convey their message. To make it simple, there are two different kinds of communication according to cultures. First is the high context culture and the second one is the low context culture. When you say high context culture, it deals with building relationships. It is implicit, meaning to say it is not really direct to the point. But when you say low context, you focus on the message rather than building connection among people. You are trying to be straightforward. You tell what you think. Okay? You use words to express how you feel. Unlike high context cultures, they express themselves by using nonverbal communication or nonverbal cues such as hand gestures, facial expressions, and other bodily movements. According to Edward T. Hall, who was a cultural anthropologist and a graduate of Columbia University, who was also best known for his work in intercultural relation and communication and one of the founders of intercultural communication study, there are two kinds of cultural communication, which are high context and low context. So this is his framework. Low context culture is high individualism, while high context culture is collectivism, meaning to say in low context culture, there is an explicit manner. It means that whatever you want to say, you use words to express them. You're also focused on requirements and you avoid merging of issues, which means you don't really try to build connection, you don't build rapport to whomever you are talking to. And also, you are precise and you observe punctuality. Say, you are supposed to finish a meeting at exactly 8:30 in the morning. It does not only talk about time, but it is about relaying the information precisely, explicitly, without using any other nonverbal cues. While high context culture, you focus on being connected with each other. That's why it's called collectivism. It deals with groups. It also includes implicit manner in speaking or communicating, which means you are more of implying the message rather than saying it directly. Also, it has high commitment to long-term relationship and it merges different issues that can arise during conversations. And of course, you are implying the message instead of directly saying it. And of course, lastly, it is relaxed about time, which means you can talk about anything, you can communicate about anything, because you're trying to be connected, you're trying to build a relationship, a long-term relationship. Unlike in low-context culture, you just want to converse, you just want to communicate, you don't want to be friends with someone. Now, all you have to remember that in high-context cultures, verbal messages have little meaning without the surrounding context. which includes the overall relationship between all the people engaged in communication. To make it simple, whenever you verbalize things, it has to be accompanied by non-verbal communication or non-verbal cues, as well as it should be established by relationships or connections. While low-context cultures, they exclude many of those stimuli and focus more intensely on the object communication event. The message itself means everything, which means they are more focused on expressing and conveying the message by using words alone. Unlike in high context cultures, you try to communicate with the heart, but in low context cultures, you try to communicate with just your mind. It is simple, it is plain, it does not involve any emotions.
Let me explain the international business concept high and low context cultures. The concept was developed by anthropologist Edward Hall, who founded the field of intercultural communication in 1959 with his book The Silent Language. Hall defines intercultural communication as a form of communication that shares information across different cultures and social groups. One framework he developed for intercultural communication was high context and low context cultures, which refers to the value cultures place on indirect and direct communication. A high context culture relies on implicit communication and nonverbal cues. In high context communication, a message cannot be understood without a great deal of background information. Asian, African, Arab, Central European and Latin American cultures are generally considered to be high context cultures. A low context culture relies on explicit communication. In low context communication, more of the information in a message is spelled out and defined. Cultures with Western European roots, such as the United States and Australia, are generally considered to be low context cultures. In summary, recognizing whether a country is a high or low context culture is very important for more effective negotiation and cultural understanding with different countries.
So, things to ponder on. Do you recognize implied messages from others, and are you aware of the verbal and non-verbal cues that let you understand the speaker's meaning? Do you let your words speak for themselves? Do you prefer to be more direct, relying on what is explicitly stated in your speech? Try to reflect, try to think. Do you really understand what the other person you are talking to would want to convey? Now, how will you overcome cultural differences? We only have two. First is to build relationships among other people. It doesn't mean that you have to focus on high context cultures, but low context cultures can also be involved in this one. When you build relationships, you're trying to build a connection, and if there is a connection, communication is much easier and more effective. And of course, accept diversity. Accept that we are different in so many ways. But these differences are what make us unique. These are what make us stand out. That's why do not be afraid, do not be ashamed if you are different, because diversity is beauty. Remember, it is not our differences that divide us, it is our inability to recognize, accept, and celebrate those differences. That's why you have to remember, differences and diversity are not bad things. It actually makes us more beautiful, remarkable, and unique on our own little ways. That's all for today. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you learned something new. This is Miss Mayani. Love and share Christ. See you again next week. Goodbye.